What if Las Vegas built a $3.7 billion palace that no one wanted to visit? The Fontainebleau opened with 67 glittering stories of glass, promising to bring Miami glamour to the Nevada desert. It had it all: celebrity restaurants, private nightclubs, and luxury suites designed for billionaires. Yet less than 2 years later, insiders say it feels like a five-star ghost town. So what went wrong? How did the most expensive new resort on the Strip become one of its quietest? Stay until the end, because the truth about Fontainebleau reveals not just one hotel's failure, but the dangerous turning point facing all of Las Vegas. The mirage of exclusivity, when luxury became a liability. If you judged it by looks alone, the Fontainebleau should have been unstoppable. 67 gleaming floors, 36 restaurants and bars, and 3,644 rooms that shimmer like polished glass. Yet step through those doors today, and you're met with something almost surreal. Vast marble corridors echoing with silence. Guests describe it as beautiful, but empty. And that emptiness isn't just visual, it's strategic. Fontainebleau's greatest mistake was believing that Las Vegas had become a city for the elite. When the resort opened in December 2023, executives envisioned a new era of high-limit glamour. They wanted to outshine Wynn, out-luxury Resorts World, and outprice the Cosmopolitan. Everything, from its marketing to its menu, was designed for the top 1%. High rollers, influencers, and ultra-wealthy tourists who could drop thousands without blinking. But there was one problem. Las Vegas itself was changing. The Strip was no longer dominated by big spenders. It was being sustained by mid-tier tourists, locals, and budget travelers seeking affordable entertainment. Convention traffic was shrinking, international visitors hadn't fully returned, and regional tourists from California and Arizona were cutting back as inflation squeezed travel budgets. While competitors adjusted, offering deals, loyalty perks, and free parking, Fontainebleau doubled down on exclusivity. The results were brutal. Reports suggested the resort was losing nearly $400,000 a day within its first few months. Restaurants sat half-empty, retail promenades lacked foot traffic, and dealers stood idle at premium tables. On social media, a single viral photo of $24 nachos, 6 chips on a plate, became a symbol of tone-deaf luxury. Even its design worked against it. The cavernous ceilings and cold blue lighting, meant to evoke elegance, instead magnified the emptiness. Meanwhile, its isolated location at the north end of the Strip, where pedestrian flow remains weak, left it disconnected from Vegas's energy. In a city built on impulse and spectacle, Fontainebleau offered neither. The irony is painful. By chasing the elite, the resort alienated everyone else. It misunderstood the core truth of Las Vegas. This city thrives on volume, not vanity. Wynn and Encore may have their whales, but it's the everyday gambler, the couple from Kansas, the bachelor party from Toronto, the locals grabbing a drink after work, who keep the machines ringing and the city alive. Fontainebleau forgot that. And now, its glimmering halls stand as a warning. In the new Las Vegas, luxury isn't a moat. It's a trap. Because the real problem isn't just exclusivity, it's location. And that's where the Fontainebleau's story turns from a miscalculation into a logistical nightmare. The location trap. Why the North Strip is still a desert. At first glance, the Fontainebleau seems perfectly positioned, front-row access to the Las Vegas Strip, that golden artery of tourism and spectacle. But location, in Vegas, is everything. And the truth is, the north end of the Strip isn't a gold mine, it's a desert. It's the quiet side of town, where bright lights fade faster and sidewalks end abruptly. Unlike the bustling mid-strip, anchored by Caesar's Palace, Bellagio, and the Cosmopolitan, the north side still feels unfinished. Visitors rarely wander this far unless they're staying nearby. That's a death sentence for any casino relying on foot traffic, and for Fontainebleau, it turned a $3.7 billion investment into a high-rise island. Let's talk numbers. According to tourism analysts, foot traffic drops by nearly 40% north of Spring Mountain Road. That means tens of thousands fewer potential guests passing by each day compared to the center corridor. Even Resorts World, Fontainebleau's luxury neighbor that opened in 2021, has struggled to maintain momentum, despite global branding and massive convention partnerships. If a resort with 3 major hotel brands can't fully ignite this zone, how can a newcomer with no loyal customer base expect to thrive? The infrastructure problem runs even deeper. Vegas's long-promised North Strip revitalization never fully materialized. The long-stalled all-net arena project remains a patch of dirt. The monorail extension never reached this far. Public transport stops just short, leaving rideshare and taxis as the only access points. For most tourists, walking from Bellagio or MGM Grand, Fontainebleau might as well be in another city. And yet, this was supposed to be the future. When developers resurrected Fontainebleau's blueprints from the 2009 recession, they believed the area would transform into a next-gen luxury hub. They bet on new convention centers, sports arenas, and spillover from Resorts World. But timing is everything, and Las Vegas's tourism recovery simply didn't keep pace. By 2025, convention attendance had slipped below pre-pandemic levels. Air arrivals were down, and midweek occupancy, the lifeblood of Vegas hotels, was softening. That meant fewer business travelers, fewer high rollers, and more empty suites at the wrong end of the Strip. Fontainebleau didn't just open into a tough market. It opened in the wrong place at the wrong time. The irony is that Las Vegas's most iconic properties, the Bellagio, Wynn, and even Flamingo, weren't built just for glamour. They were built for flow. Every footstep, every escalator, every view is designed to pull you inward. Fontainebleau, towering in isolation, broke that rule. It built a fortress of glass when what Vegas needed was connection. And as the neon glow fades northward, the silence around Fontainebleau grows louder. But even geography isn't its biggest problem, because what's coming next could threaten its very survival. The investigation. The scandal in the shadows. The federal investigation threatening Fontainebleau. Just when Fontainebleau needed good press, it got the opposite. In early 2025, headlines broke that the Nevada Gaming Control Board had launched a federal investigation into possible violations of anti-money laundering laws. Suddenly, a story about slow tourism and bad strategy turned into something far more dangerous, a potential scandal threatening the casino's license itself. According to state filings, investigators allege that Fontainebleau's management team issued casino credit to select patrons without completing mandatory background checks. That might sound like a small paperwork error, but in Nevada's gaming world, it's a bombshell. These checks are the backbone of anti-money laundering compliance. They ensure that high-value credit lines aren't being used to mask illicit cash flow. Violating them can mean million-dollar fines, operational restrictions, or even suspension of a gaming license, the economic equivalent of cutting off a casino's oxygen supply. What makes this worse is timing. The resort had already cycled through multiple senior executives within its first year. The CFO, COO, CTO, and beverage director all exited amid restructuring. By the time the investigation surfaced, leadership stability was already in question. The president, Maurice Wooden, a respected veteran from Wynn, was granted only a 2-year limited license while the inquiry plays out. Translation? The state doesn't fully trust the management yet. For guests and investors, this uncertainty breeds fear. Casinos operate on confidence, the belief that your money, your privacy, and your reputation are safe. When that confidence cracks, high-limit players vanish overnight. And in Fontainebleau's case, they didn't have many to lose. To make matters worse, a lawsuit from Wynn Resorts landed soon after, accusing Fontainebleau of poaching staff under existing contracts.
The irony was brutal. Wynn's lawyers publicly stated they want all operators in Las Vegas to succeed, just not by breaking the rules. It was a quiet dagger in the back from the city's most powerful rival. For the Fontainebleau brand, which spent years marketing itself as refined, modern, and trustworthy, these headlines were devastating. The resort suddenly looked less like a visionary newcomer and more like a troubled upstart fighting to stay afloat. But this scandal reveals something deeper about Vegas itself, the razor-thin line between glamour and governance. For decades, this city has danced with regulation, a place built on risk, constantly negotiating with oversight. Fontainebleau stepped onto that stage at the worst possible moment, when public scrutiny over casino ethics, worker rights, and tourism integrity had never been higher. And just as regulators circle, there's another issue eroding trust from within: the human factor. Because behind every failed luxury empire are the workers holding it up, and many of them aren't holding on anymore. The human cost: layoffs, unions, and the fight to keep Fontainebleau alive. You can measure a company's health in spreadsheets, but in Las Vegas, the real story lives behind the tables. And at Fontainebleau, that story is one of fear, fatigue, and frustration. Barely 6 months after its grand opening, the resort quietly began trimming staff. 60 table game dealers were laid off in a single round of cuts. For a property that had promised to set a new gold standard for hospitality, it was a stunning reversal. Behind closed doors, management framed it as a cost optimization move to stabilize daily losses. But on the casino floor, it felt like betrayal. These were employees who had left steady jobs at Wynn, Resorts World, and Bellagio for a chance to be part of something new, something glamorous. Instead, they watched the crowds thin, their hours cut, and the once hyped Blue Live Theater dim between concerts. The layoffs didn't stop there. Department heads rotated in and out like guests checking in for a night. The CFO resigned amid the financial bleed. The beverage director followed soon after. Even mid-level supervisors complained of management by panic, constant restructuring, shifting targets, and unclear leadership. Fontainebleau wasn't just losing money, it was losing morale. But out of that chaos came something rare for Vegas luxury properties: a union. Earlier this year, Fontainebleau's workers joined the culinary union Local 226, the same powerhouse that represents more than 60,000 hospitality workers across the city. For employees, it was a lifeline: better wages, stronger protections, and leverage in a corporate environment known for instability. For management, it was a warning sign, a symbol that even five-star resorts can't escape the city's growing labor reckoning. This unionization wave didn't happen in isolation. Across the Strip, workers have been striking, demanding fair pay in a city where the cost of living has surged faster than wages. A one-bedroom apartment now averages over $1,500 a month. Utilities are climbing, and even resort employees, the backbone of Vegas, are being priced out of the city they keep alive. Fontainebleau became a flashpoint in that struggle, a billion-dollar palace where service workers fought for basic security. In a way, it captures the paradox of post-pandemic Las Vegas, a city where opulence towers above, while uncertainty simmers below. Fontainebleau's story isn't just about a failing business model. It's about the people trying to keep it standing. Yet, as the workers fight for stability, there's another force threatening everything they've built: Vegas's tourism engine itself. Because the city that once promised endless crowds is starting to run out of visitors. The tourism slump, when Las Vegas ran out of visitors. For decades, Las Vegas lived by one rule: as long as people kept coming, everything else would take care of itself. But that rule is breaking, and Fontainebleau may be its first casualty. By late 2025, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority reported a clear downturn. Visitor volume slipped below 38 million, down from over 40 million the previous year. International arrivals, especially from Canada, Asia, and Europe, dropped by double digits, and midweek occupancy rates fell to their lowest point since the pandemic. Flights into Harry Reid International were lighter, conventions were thinner, and spontaneous weekend trips, once the city's secret weapon, had slowed to a trickle. At first, casino executives blamed inflation. Airfare costs were up 20%. Resort fees, parking charges, and restaurant markups turned a cheap getaway into a $1,000 weekend. But the real issue went deeper. Visitors weren't just spending less, they were feeling less. Las Vegas, for many, had lost its sense of escape. The magic formula that made the city unbeatable, affordable rooms, generous comps, and a feeling that anyone can be a high roller for a night, has been replaced by nickel-and-dime economics. Travelers on Reddit, TikTok, and YouTube vented their frustration. $25 drinks, $55 buffets, and slot machines that feel tighter than ever. Vegas used to be fun, one comment read. Now it's just expensive. This sentiment hit Fontainebleau harder than anyone. While legacy resorts like MGM Grand and Caesars can fall back on decades of loyalty programs and repeat visitors, Fontainebleau entered the game at the worst possible time, in the middle of what economists are calling a value perception collapse. Luxury alone no longer sells in Vegas. Guests now want experiences, authenticity, and affordability. Fontainebleau offered marble floors and Michelin-style pricing, in a market craving comfort and connection. Compounding the pain was the convention slowdown. Corporate travel budgets haven't fully rebounded, and with remote work now the norm, midweek hotel demand has cratered. Historically, conventions and expos filled the Strip's quieter days, guaranteeing cash flow between the party weekends. But with fewer events and tighter spending, hotels like Fontainebleau found themselves chasing an audience that simply wasn't there. Meanwhile, other destinations, Miami, Austin, Nashville, even Dubai, have begun siphoning off Vegas's old clientele. They offer nightlife, entertainment, and status appeal, often without the hidden fees. Global competition has finally caught up to the desert. For a city that once defined excess, this new reality is brutal. Fewer visitors, shorter stays, and smaller bets. Fontainebleau's empty casino floors aren't an exception. They're a mirror. Because when Vegas runs out of visitors, it runs out of oxygen. And the next crisis won't just be about who's visiting, but what kind of Vegas they'll find when they get there. The image crisis. How Las Vegas lost its magic. Once upon a time, Las Vegas didn't sell rooms. It sold dreams. It was the city of second chances, flashing lights, and unapologetic fun. The promise was simple. You didn't have to be rich to feel like royalty for a weekend. But somewhere along the way, that story changed, and the Fontainebleau became its most expensive metaphor. In the last 5 years, Las Vegas has quietly traded fantasy for fees. Resort charges climb past $55 a night. Self-parking that used to be free now costs $20, and the all-you-can-eat buffet, once a symbol of Vegas generosity, has turned into a luxury tier expense. The Strip, once defined by neon spontaneity, now feels curated, transactional, even corporate. Fontainebleau entered this environment like a showroom for the new Vegas. Immaculate, beautiful, but emotionally hollow. Its marble floors gleam, its restaurants sparkle, and its lobby smells like imported fragrance from Miami Beach. Yet guests leave saying it feels cold, sterile, soulless. That word, soulless, shows up again and again in online reviews and YouTube vlogs. And it captures the deeper image problem plaguing not just Fontainebleau, but the entire Strip. For a generation that values authenticity and connection, Las Vegas feels increasingly artificial. The same tourists who once marveled at pirate battles outside Treasure Island now complain about digital ads covering the Bellagio fountains. The Strip's reinvention, driven by corporate consolidation and Wall Street logic, has stripped away the very chaos that made it magical. Even loyal visitors notice the shift. Older travelers say the excitement is gone. Younger tourists, especially Gen Z, prefer Austin's music scene, Nashville's nightlife, or Miami's beach energy. The idea of going to Vegas no longer carries the same thrill it once did. Fontainebleau's emptiness, then, isn't a mystery. It's a mirror reflecting a larger truth. Las Vegas has lost touch with its audience. And that disconnect is costing billions. Social media sentiment toward the city has turned sharply negative. According to hospitality data trackers, online satisfaction scores for the Strip are down nearly 15% since 2019, the steepest decline among major U.S. tourist destinations. What used to be a pilgrimage is now a cautionary tale. Don't go to Vegas unless you're ready to overpay. Fontainebleau's cold aesthetic, its towering glass walls, minimalist design, and members-only tone amplified that perception. Instead of warmth, it radiates exclusivity. Instead of energy, emptiness. It's not just failing to attract guests, it's reminding them why they stopped coming. In trying to embody the new Vegas, Fontainebleau accidentally revealed its greatest weakness, the city's identity crisis. Is Las Vegas still a playground for everyone, or a private club for the rich? That question isn't just branding, it's survival. Because if Vegas can't reclaim its magic, the next casualty won't be a building. It'll be the belief that this city can still reinvent itself. But reinvention takes more than image. It takes strategy. And the Fontainebleau's financial playbook, from its $3.7 billion cost to its impossible break-even math, is where the real cracks begin to show. The financial freefall. How $3.7 billion turned into a daily loss machine. At the heart of every Las Vegas fantasy is a number. For Fontainebleau, that number was $3.7 billion. The price of ambition, optimism, and, ultimately, miscalculation. When the property finally opened in December 2023 after nearly 2 decades of false starts, it was supposed to be a symbol of resilience. The blue glass tower that once sat unfinished through the Great Recession would finally rise again, a monument to Vegas's comeback. But just months after opening, the numbers told a different story. Behind the polished lobbies and luxury branding, Fontainebleau was bleeding cash, up to $400,000 a day in losses. Where did that money go? Into the very things meant to make it untouchable. Fontainebleau was built for opulence. 3,644 rooms, 36 restaurants, a 173,000 square foot casino, and retail stretching across a marble promenade. Each element came with staggering fixed costs: utilities, staffing, maintenance, and debt servicing. The resort's energy bill alone is rumored to exceed $1 million per month, and its loan interest, tied to high-rate debt from its 2020 refinancing, consumes tens of millions annually. That might have been sustainable if Vegas's recovery had matched the hype. But by 2024, the city's visitor growth stalled, convention spending dipped, and air arrivals slowed. Fontainebleau, designed to thrive on premium occupancy, found itself selling rooms at deep discounts to stay alive. According to hospitality analysts, it now ranks below 30th among Las Vegas hotels on TripAdvisor. Not catastrophic, but far too low for a brand that markets itself as the future of luxury. Internally, management tried everything: flash sales, free parking, locals promotions. But the math never worked. The luxury segment that Fontainebleau targeted was too small, and the mid-market travelers who could fill its rooms were too price-sensitive. Instead of becoming a magnet for high rollers, it became an option for the curious. Visitors who came once snapped photos and never returned. Even its massive casino underperformed. The Fontainebleau's gaming floors, designed with high ceilings and bright white lighting, feel more like an art gallery than a gambler's paradise. Dealers report long stretches with no players. Table revenue per square foot trails behind not only Wynn and Resorts World, but even older properties like the Mirage before its sale. Then came the compounding problem, the debt. The resort's financing structure, assembled during the post-pandemic boom when interest rates were low, suddenly became a ticking bomb when the Fed tightened policy. Rising borrowing costs meant Fontainebleau's carrying expenses surged, just as its revenue collapsed. For every $1 it earned in gaming or hospitality, nearly 70 cents went to debt service and overhead, an impossible ratio in an already slowing market. To make matters worse, the ownership group doubled down in 2025 by purchasing an adjacent 2.2-acre lot for $112.5 million, signaling future expansion. But insiders say the timing was reckless. Expanding while losing millions isn't strategy, it's denial. What we're witnessing isn't just a resort in trouble, it's the anatomy of a financial mirage. A project built on outdated assumptions that Vegas could endlessly absorb luxury supply. Fontainebleau's investors bet on a perpetual boom. Instead, they got a masterclass in overexposure. Because when your burn rate hits 6 figures a day, your brand isn't your biggest risk. Your balance sheet is. And as Fontainebleau's books turn red, one question looms larger than its glass facade. How do you fix a property that was never designed to break even? The answer lies in competition, the very ecosystem of billion-dollar resorts that made Vegas what it is, and now threaten to tear it apart. The competition wars, when every luxury brand fights for the same dollar. In the golden age of Las Vegas, competition fueled the magic. Each new resort brought something no one had seen before. Dancing fountains, erupting volcanoes, roller coasters above neon skylines. But today, the Strip isn't competing to innovate. It's competing to survive. And nowhere is that clearer than in Fontainebleau's fight for relevance. When it opened in late 2023, Fontainebleau entered a battlefield already stacked with titans. Wynn and Encore on one side, Resorts World next door, and the Cosmopolitan and Aria ruling the mid-strip. Every one of these properties targets the same high-value visitor. Affluent, status-driven, experience-hungry. But that visitor pool hasn't grown. It's shrunk. That's the paradox of modern Las Vegas. The city keeps building luxury, but its luxury audience isn't expanding. According to Oxford Economics, the share of high-spending tourists dropped 12% between 2022 and 2025, replaced by budget-conscious travelers or locals seeking short escapes. Yet developers keep doubling down on marble, Michelin chefs, and private lounges. Fontainebleau's arrival didn't fill a gap. It joined an overcrowded club. And the incumbents have home field advantage. Wynn and Encore spent decades perfecting the art of loyalty. Their players' clubs, personal host networks, and service consistency create emotional ties money can't buy. Cosmopolitan turned its quirky charm into a lifestyle brand, catering to millennials with art installations and pool parties that feel less corporate, more human. Even Resorts World, despite its own financial struggles, leveraged its Hilton, Conrad, and Crockford's trifecta to attract diverse demographics. Fontainebleau? It came in with no legacy, no loyalty base, and no clear identity. It wasn't bold like Circa, playful like Cosmo, or timeless like Wynn. It was just expensive. And in Las Vegas, expensive without personality is the kiss of death. The marketing misfires didn't help. The brand leaned heavily on its Miami heritage, sleek, sterile, ocean blue imagery that clashed with the Strip's gritty vibrancy. Instead of standing out, Fontainebleau blended in. Its promotions promised refined exclusivity at a time when travelers were craving authenticity and warmth. Online, it became the butt of jokes, a dead mall with chandeliers. Meanwhile, the city's rising costs, from utilities to insurance, squeezed profit margins across the board. Competitors responded by diversifying. MGM leaned into sports betting and entertainment, Wynn doubled down on conventions, and Caesars revamped rewards programs. Fontainebleau, still struggling to fill rooms, couldn't pivot fast enough. And when luxury becomes overcrowded, it turns into cannibalism. Every dollar a traveler spends at Wynn or Cosmo is one Fontainebleau doesn't get. Every headline about Vegas fatigue pushes even wealthy guests toward other destinations: Dubai, Singapore, Monte Carlo. The war for the top 1% has no winners, only exhausted balance sheets. Ironically, Las Vegas built its empire on risk-taking, but its newest players are afraid to take risks. Fontainebleau's architecture might tower 67 stories high, but strategically, it's built on sameness. A skyscraper without soul in a skyline full of replicas. And that's the real danger. The Strip is no longer expanding, it's cannibalizing itself. The glamour arms race that once made Vegas famous is now eroding its foundation. Because in this city, survival doesn't belong to the richest, it belongs to the most adaptable. And that's the one thing that Fontainebleau hasn't been. But amid this battlefield of overbuilt luxury and shrinking demand, one truth still keeps Vegas alive: its ability to reinvent itself again and again. Which brings us to the final chapter. Can the city and Fontainebleau still find redemption before the lights dim for good? Reinvention or collapse. Can Las Vegas and Fontainebleau find redemption? Every city has a breaking point. For Las Vegas, it's the moment when the illusion stops working, when the lights still flash but no one's looking. Fontainebleau was supposed to be the next chapter of that illusion, a $3.7 billion symbol of rebirth, designed to prove that Vegas could still outshine the world. Yet 2 years in, it has become something else entirely: a mirror. One reflecting not just its own missteps, but the fragility of the empire it was built to celebrate. Because the truth is, the Fontainebleau didn't fail alone. It failed with a city that forgot how to evolve. For decades, Las Vegas thrived on reinvention. From the mob-run casinos of the 1950s, to the mega-resorts of the 1990s, to the entertainment hubs of the 2010s. Every crisis, every collapse, every recession gave birth to a new version of itself. But this time feels different. The formula isn't working. The visitors aren't coming. The middle class it once entertained can no longer afford to play. The problem isn't the city's sparkle, it's the strategy behind it. Vegas doubled down on luxury just as the world moved toward value. It sold exclusivity when people were craving experience. Fontainebleau became the ultimate expression of that miscalculation. A billion-dollar building with everything except connection. Yet, if there's one thing Las Vegas has always done better than any other city on Earth, it's reinvention. And that's where hope still flickers. Fontainebleau has started adapting, quietly. Free parking returned. Local promotions rolled out. Entertainment bookings filled the Blue Live Theater with genuine energy. Its newly unionized workforce, now better paid and more stable, could become the key to restoring service quality and human warmth. The soul that no amount of marble can buy. Beyond its walls, the city itself is shifting again. Developers are looking south, toward affordable entertainment districts and experiential projects instead of sterile mega-resorts. Vegas is learning, painfully, that the future isn't just about being big, but being human. And maybe that's what Fontainebleau's emptiness was meant to teach all along. That even in a city built on illusion, connection is the only thing real. So can Las Vegas and Fontainebleau find redemption? If history is any guide, it can. But only if it remembers who it's really building for. The Fontainebleau's story isn't just about one empty resort.
It's about a city at a crossroads. Las Vegas can no longer survive on luxury alone. It must rediscover its heart, its people, and its purpose. What do you think? Is the magic gone for good, or just waiting to be reborn?